Hello, welcome to #SportsConf. I'm Steve Cobb from #Sports. We've got an amazing panel, building the modern sports brand through video, and we're here at Whistle Sports offices actually. So we've got them joining us. We've also got Nitro, Circus, NBC Sports, and 5by. And just a little housekeeping. If you're watching today, this is a very interactive event, so we encourage you to use the conference #SportsConf to ask your questions, share insights. We're going to try to get some of those to our speakers. And I guess just to kick things off, let's go right to it, and let's get an introduction down the line. Just tell us kind of where you work and what you do for that brand. We can start with Cody.
Sure. Hey everybody, I do audience development for Nitro Circus. For those not familiar, Nitro Circus is the global action sports tour faced by Travis Pastrana. Also a TV show on MTV2. So I manage the online footprint, grow it across all platforms so we can eventually turn it into a business.
Great. Lindsay?
Hi everybody, I'm Lindsay Signor from NBC Sports. I oversee the social media and digital marketing group. We cover everything socially from the Olympics to Super Bowl, Sunday Night Football, NHL, Derby. And our group is really sort of a hub for all things social between digital, production, sales, PR, HR, everybody. So we have a pretty fun job around here.
Okay. Nate?
Yeah, guys, my name is Nate Loucks from Whistle Sports. Like Steve said, we're about 100 feet from each other in different conference rooms, but I'm the director of original programming. So handle actually both, building the Whistle Sports brand with our original content, as well as creating content strategy for our great partners.
Awesome. And Theo?
Hey guys, I'm Theo Tabah. I work for a company called 5by. We are a mobile-first company that aggregates kind of the best video across the web, and I'm the head of content. So I lead a team of curators that go out and handpick all the best videos, sports being a major part of that, and decide how to display that to our viewers, and also deal with partnerships with brands like Vice, Mashable, and into others, ESPN and such. So, yeah.
Great. Well, we've got a nice panel here that kind of combines a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different entities in the sports ecosystem, and we're coming off of a major event, one of the biggest in the sports industry, and that's the Super Bowl. Obviously, NBC hosted that and had a huge, I think the biggest ever social media campaign, and Lindsay was kind of leading the charge on that. And I mean, as we know, as social media practitioners, video has really rose to prominence just in terms of the best type of content to engage fans through the feed. And it started off obviously as text, and then photo became big, and now video is huge. So, Lindsay, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about your activation, particularly the mindset of video in regards to Super Bowl?
Sure. So Super Bowl is really interesting. All of the big events that we cover are interesting in that you kind of assume by being the broadcast rights holder, you have an upper hand in the social space. And frankly, it's a little bit opposite. And I'm sure a lot of folks, whether it's award shows or the World Cup, having a big event is pretty much guaranteeing more competition than you could have planned for, because everyone kind of wants a piece of the pie. So for us, video was really important in a number of ways, especially with a lot of the changes within Facebook. We were kidding ourselves if we thought that all video was just going to live on NBCSports.com, and that was a big part of our strategy. Obviously, we want the best video on our site. We can monetize the site, and we want to drive traffic to the site. But when it comes to marketing the Super Bowl through social, we really wanted to hit video on a bunch of different platforms, ideally to bring more people in that wouldn't otherwise be watching. So we did this in a couple of different ways. We worked with Dude Perfect, who is actually a part of Whistle, on creating a Super Bowl edition Trick Shot Edition video. And this was really cool for us. I think they obviously have tremendous reach on YouTube. People are, visit their site religiously when they release new video. So that was one piece to our sort of larger strategic approach, was how do we tap into a YouTube influencer that is also on brand for us and our audience would enjoy. What we brought to the table for Dude Perfect was massive, massive television eyeballs around an audience that may not know who they are. So we had a 3-minute Dude Perfect segment in the pregame show that I think was around 4 o'clock, which is a significant audience for them. We got to work with Odell Beckham Jr., who everyone kind of remembers his sick catch that thankfully was also on Sunday Night Football. But the guy is a beast. He's perfect for something like a trick shot video. So that was sort of a huge piece of our strategy around video looping in YouTube. We also had this stuff on our site. We also worked with Twitter and the Vine crew. We had a couple people from Vine come down, gave them access to Media Day, gave them access to our trucks, and had them creating content for us that they would push out through the Vine channels, and then we would push out through the Sunday Night Football Vine accounts. And then obviously Instagram video was another one as well that we utilized. We had a person on the sidelines during the game getting photos, and then we had people in the stands with Instagram and Vine getting crowd reactions. So those were sort of the 3 key pieces of our video strategy, along with obviously the live stream of the game on NBC Sports Live Extra, having content that we were creating, the social team was grabbing. We did a Gronk spike video that's probably one of my favorite things that we did, where we just had these random fans Gronk spiking a bunch of random stuff in what looked like an abandoned warehouse that kind of looked sketchy in hindsight, but it was cool. They got to Gronk spike a bunch of fruit and soda and whatnot. And all of that, we lived on the site, lived on Facebook. And I think overall, we considered video as a much bigger part of our strategy this Super Bowl than even 3 years ago when we were in Indianapolis.
Yeah, obviously, you covered a lot there, and I'd like to touch on, you mentioned the Gronk spike. I remember that video, and I think that's that type of content, not necessarily worrying about the broadcast of the live game or the highlights, but that ancillary content surrounding sports and surrounding athletes is huge. And Whistle Sports is kind of leading the charge on that. They also work with Dude Perfect, and they work with a lot of individual athletes. So, Nate, I'd like to hear a little bit more, if you could expand on, the nature of that content that's not, the live game, and how much that's exploded in recent years, and what you guys do in that space.
Sure. Yeah. When you look at Whistle Sports, we're all video. That's our bread and butter, and we don't necessarily have league rights. We have league partnerships that have granted us access, and we'll always have opportunity to co-create content there. But in the example of the Super Bowl, it was amazing to have the dudes down there with NBC Sports. I think it's a testament to our growing community and the creators that have really built a great track record for themselves on the platforms. But for Whistle Sports, the brand specifically, we're all about that ancillary content. So on the ground in Arizona, we were able to really utilize Snapchat around a Temple event for the first time, bringing our audience on the experience with us. So whether that was, getting a tour of the facilities, we actually got to go horseback riding with Justin Forsett. We were engaging real time via Snapchat, and of course Instagram, Twitter as well, and then shooting the longer form content that would roll out afterwards. But the real time engagement around that ancillary content gives us, I guess, direction as to where our followers and subscribers want us to take the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And I guess, just Nate, to expand on that, what makes for from a strategic standpoint, do you advise the creators? Do you really just kind of let them do their thing and you provide support? But I know you've worked with a lot of different people. What's a good way to go about that strategically? Whether you're an individual or, let's say, a team.
Sure.
Everyone knows that video is good and everyone sees great video, but it's very difficult to actually execute.
Yeah, I think our our vast, diverse pool of creators, they all have strengths and weaknesses as to where we can help to optimize. So, guys like Dude Perfect, obviously, they've been in this game for a while now and understand. We'll always advise and continue to co-collaborate there. Some of the newer creators, or guys that maybe had one or two great videos and are looking to expand and try and create a business around that. That's where you really step in and help to create a strategic content plan. Facilitate collaborations and productions with other creators within our network, which has always been incredibly beneficial. And really what we're all trying to do at Whistle Sports is build the community of social sports fans and social sports creators. So a great example, we had five or six of our great basketball creators come in this past week for the NBA All-Star Game and spent the entire day working with everyone in a roundtable forum, pretty much trying to figure out how can we continue to blow this community out and work together. So I think that's one thing that we really do pride ourselves on.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And Theo, so going to just off of what Nate was saying, with them being on so many different social platforms and influencers now, not just being YouTube influencers, but having a presence on Vine and Snapchat and Instagram. I think you can agree that the online video space has really matured and it's opened up opportunities to come in and serve needs that maybe larger networks and platforms weren't fulfilling, or pain points. And I think 5by is a great example of that. So could you kind of give us a little bit of background on where you fit into the online video ecosystem and just, I guess, the role of curation in this very noisy marketplace?
Sure. I mean, when we started out just under 2 years ago, it was kind of just delving through the content on YouTube and Vimeo, and that was kind of where it ended. But as we see now, it's more and more awesome content is showing up on platforms like Vine, Instagram, and Snapchat. So you can no longer just go to YouTube and find all the great stuff you want to watch. Even though we're still sifting through that and there's still amazing stuff, it's important for us to now integrate with platforms like Vine, Instagram. They have this unique ability to get a different perspective on games, on players. We saw an example with ODB breaking the one-handed catch record, and then almost hours later, another video surfaced with college students doing the same thing and beating ODB. So it's just like these videos that come up on Instagram, on YouTube, almost instantaneously around sports, even around like league rules. So we see that a lot with NFL big plays or World Cup. People might have a Vine of the final goal, but if we don't have a partnership with them, or they aren't willing to put their content on YouTube, then it's hard for the world to see it, who actually missed that. So these platforms are facilitating everyday people to, who might not normally tune into stuff like that, to see the greatest moments in 6 or 15 seconds. And that's something that's really cool and really new. And now Snapchat is even breaking down that boundary, and with stories, it's essentially a live feed without these kind of rights, or without having cable TV or anything like that. So it plays a huge role, and we're only looking to integrate with more and more platforms so we can really capitalize on all video that surfaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. To shift the conversation, I'd like to turn it to Cody and Nitro Circus. So you have a very, very interesting backstory to your brand, and videos at the center of it. So I'd like for you to kind of share with the audience how Nitro Circus got started and the role that video has played, and how you've kind of rode the evolution of it to online and digital, and to what you're doing today and the success that you're seeing.
Right. Yeah, Nitro Circus started as video. It was Travis Pastrana and our head of media, Jeremy Rawl, shooting him and his friends doing crazy stunts, and then selling DVDs out of their garage in Utah. And then a guy that handled live sports out of Australia came in and started the tour, and then combined the media portion with the live portion, and it became Nitro Circus as it is today. Up until last year, it had no digital team. It had just random people at the live shows, Facebooking and tweeting, and there was no strategy, there was no optimization, but still They were able to get 5 million Facebook fans and all of these YouTube subscribers incredibly organically. So when we built out the digital team, which is still about 3 people, we went in and under the hood of each platform, and purely just by optimizing each platform without the content, it was a game changer. And then when we kind of proved Nitro Circus is not a digitally savvy company, 95% of the revenue is still just from the live tour. So when we could show the reach and the power to drive eyeballs through our digital platforms, we got full support from our media team to do a slate of original programming for online, which is Christmas for us. So content completely drives everything. We're now we have this giant backlog of content that we were able to mine and optimize for each platform, and now we're doing everything originally and helping craft the formats. Whether it's going on Snapchat, whether it's going on Facebook or YouTube, we're able to shoot for that platform, which is we're really spoiled because we have some of the most visually exciting content, world firsts and world records coming in every week.
Thank you. So a lot of people are asking questions about building audience. So as we know, the selling ads at scale to brand sponsors, which might not be the goal for everyone on the panel here, but is relevant obviously to NBC and Whistle Sports. It revolves around aggregating audience, and tentpole events in sports are usually great ways to do that. So could you speak a little bit about how you go about, I guess, building a package for potential brand sponsors, making it attractive to them, differentiating it from other things out there on the market, and how you go about and present that to potential partners. And I guess, Lindsay, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, I think what's interesting specifically with video now is, and this is sort of how we looked at Dude Perfect, even though we didn't attach a sponsor to that particular campaign, is that you have the ability to control metrics, impressions, audience around your site or your social channels. And oftentimes when you're looking at particular sponsors, their social reach, potentially the reach of their website, is greater than what you're working with. So I think what the key is for us is the content. We have the rights to highlights in most cases with our sports, whether it's putting them on our site or on social or wherever. And it's sort of, what do we have to offer that a sponsor or brand can't get? And I think a lot of times what's cool now is that there are so many different areas in which you can put this content, that that's sort of our goal, and it's aligning with the sponsor in that way. So if a sponsor's prime goal is more reach and more eyeballs on their stuff, then we can work on, okay, we'll put your content here on our site, here within our social channels, and then maybe we want to partner with a YouTube personality or someone that has sort of that additional reach where you can have their brand and content incorporated into not just our stuff, but another entity. So I think that's something it's not been in our wheelhouse for very long. But especially when it comes to big events where nothing's going to get bigger than that on-air TV audience. But a lot of people, they want the digital extension. So it's, how do we develop a plan that makes sense for them, that is on brand for us, where the content's really, really good. And sometimes that's not just going to be integrating that stuff into our site. It's going to be reaching outside and saying, okay, you know what makes the most sense for what this brand wants to accomplish is, let's go and talk to a Vine artist that would be really, really cool and make really original stuff that not only gets exposure for the brand and gets exposure for NBC Sports, but also is unique, and that secondary audience thinks it's cool and drives a little more awareness to the sponsor itself.
Great. Nate, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, sure. I think Lindsay hit some really great points there. When we look at an overall content strategy around an opportunity like that, given that we don't have a .com presence, we are really a hub totally on social platforms. So it's a way to create unique and exclusive content that will work differently across these platforms. So YouTube, a lot of our creators that have made their case on YouTube, but some have larger followings on Facebook or Vine or Instagram. So when we go to a brand who's looking for, like Lindsay said, that digital extension, it's how can we take whether it's a vertical of creators, maybe 4, 5, 6, 16 of our creators, and say, hey, we have this really great lot of original talent here that would cover the basis of what you're looking for. Let's come up with a really creative way to not only raise awareness around your product on one platform, but across many. And really, I think what the creators bring value there is, one, a lot of them do already have great social reach, and two, they know how to integrate product organically. So I think the viewer and the consumer these days can call out an ad very quickly. So it's how do we get those brand sponsorships to feel really a part of the video, as authentic as possible, because I follow these creators because I identify with them, I idolize them, I feel a true connection there. So I want to make sure that it's done in the correct way.
Yeah, great insights. Theo, I'd like to also turn that to you. I think you can probably relate to aggregating an audience and curating through similar likes and interests of an audience through channels. And could you talk a little bit about, number one, do you have any experience with bringing brands to those channels, and if so, what makes that successful? What are they looking for? And then also, number two, besides the obvious, is there any insights that you have based on all the data and the videos that you've aggregated on the types of content that sports fans and that demographic likes to consume or is starting to show more interest in?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, right now we aggregate in a way where we organize it by interest. So if you're just a hardcore football fan, you'll get a football channel. If you're a hardcore hockey fan, we've got a hockey channel, kind of like that. But we also have a general sports category for kind of the best of the best. That, regardless of what you're into, if you go into this sports channel, you're going to see just amazing clips from across the web and across sports. The kind of trends we're seeing right now with VR analytics is pretty standard and pretty much what you'd expect. Is like the crazier the video, that Ovechkin goal that you can't believe, or that ODB catch caught on 6 different angles. Those are the things that kind of really impress people. But on top of that, it's kind of these athletes building their own brands around themselves via video, which is something we haven't seen before much. Like you have Aaron Rodgers, who visited these kids, who lost their parents overseas through the war, and he went and kind of was just like a nice, caring dude, and you got to see Aaron Rodgers in a different light. And there's these videos like that, and with Zlatan Ibrahimovic lately, he just did an ad where he got his names of kids tattooed suffering from world hunger. It's these types of videos that you didn't used to see, or you only saw on TV, and if you missed it, you missed it. Whereas now it's kind of these sports ads and these sports videos that are getting made building brands around athletes themselves are kind of seeing traction and giving a new light and a new perspective on these athletes. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the months to come. Athletes building their own brands through video and maybe with their sponsors, and aggregating that content is as easy as making it feel as organic as possible. So it helps for us to have these different channels, because if you're in the soccer channel and you see this Ibrahimovic ad, you're not going to feel like it's an ad forced on you. You're going to feel like you'd want to see that anyways. So a mix of quality ads and putting them where they belong and not just scattered across the entire site makes for just a great user experience, and I think an experience that feels as organic and natural as possible.
Sorry, lost you there. Thank you very much. I want to also now turn it to Cody because my background is more on the traditional side, mainstream sports, and you have seasons, you have playoffs, and so with Nitro Circus and action sports, you're not limited to a time frame where, okay, that was 4 weeks ago, I'm not interested in that highlight. You have this huge archive of footage that you're able to go dig into, and it's all almost as relevant as it was back then now if you kind of repackage it. Could you talk a little bit about the opportunities that maybe you have that the traditional sports teams might not have in Big Five leagues, revolving around video and social?
Sure. Yeah, and you're right. We're not always on tour. We have lulls between tours, so it's really sometimes a challenge to figure out how we can keep everything fresh in between tours. But we have, and kind of Theo spoke to it, is we have these great personalities and we have these great athletes who are a brand themselves. And as much as we can grow them, it helps us. So what we look to do is these guys, we have a roster of 40 of the world's greatest action sports athletes who are going to be out flipping things anyways and shooting it. So we can kind of build a strategy for them. I'm not only building a strategy to grow Nitro Circus, I'm out there trying to build these guys up separately. So we have a direct connection to each of them, and if I know one of them is going to take a trip to Jackson Hole and is going to jump out of a helicopter onto skis or base jump off something, we can say, hold on, we're going to build a strategy. This is the kind of content that we want to come from it. If we're focusing on Snapchat, which is something we recently launched, we can go to the writers and say, we do a lot of behind the scenes at the live shows, but writers can send me videos when we're not at shows, if they're just doing something crazy in their backyard. It's really just, digital is people connecting with people. They would rather connect and engage with a personality than a brand, and I totally understand that. So I'm fine with growing our athlete network because it will help Nitro Circus in the long run.
Excuse me. So everybody, I think you all work from premium brands that really understand digital video. You're the experts in the field. Do you have advice for people that might be watching that might be from teams that don't have huge budgets and they're very stretched thin? I think everybody in sports is stretched thin to a certain extent, but what are the, let's say, one or two pieces of advice you have when it comes to integrating video into their social or digital strategy? I guess let's start with Lindsay, if you could.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised. Our team over here is not robust, but I think we do kind of, the biggest piece of advice for me, I think, is narrowing what your focus is and what your goals are. Because for us, like right now, NBC Sports is not on Snapchat. As a marketing person, it makes complete sense. It's completely marketing. You're not linking off anywhere. You have the ability to reach a much younger audience. But for us, we are still kind of figuring out what is our role in Snapchat. As a broadcaster, sometimes in everything that we do, it's like, what is the point of following the broadcast partner? You follow the teams, you follow your favorite athletes, you follow the leagues. It's like, and then there's NBC. Like, what's the point? And a lot of times, especially with something like Snapchat, you're kind of like, okay, obviously want to be there. A lot of our competitors are there, but what's our role? And so I think it's understanding what, based on the resources that you have, what are you going to get the most out of and with what platforms? Because I think the worst mistake a lot of brands make is just diving in head first into new platforms because everyone else is, and then you kind of end up with crappy content on multiple platforms that nobody wants to engage with anyway. So I think that's the biggest thing is, what really is the platform that makes the most sense based on your resources that's going to get you the most And sometimes that's Facebook, sometimes it's not. Right now it seems like that's a good play because of the reach of the video there. But that's probably my biggest piece of advice that I see a lot of brands make the mistake of, is just, here's a new video platform, get on board quickly without having a really baked strategy that might benefit you regardless of how big your company is.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I think to piggyback off that, some brands, who are able to take more risks because they don't have as big of an audience, it might make sense to try to be the first on a new platform and really jump out ahead of it. But yeah, I mean, if you have a large following, you have to be very careful with where you put your resources, and it's better to probably not be somewhere than to be there and not represent your voice and your brand the right way. I guess, Nate, could you chime in with your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I think I totally agree, and I think when we look at Whistle Sports, again, given we have a few hundred partners who all sort of have they have their stakes on different platforms. We want to make sure that as a company internally that we can help them facilitate what's necessary across those platforms. So we do want to be experts across these emerging platforms, but as far as where we devote our resources and time, very along the same lines there, we want to make sure that our focus is clear, but also open up a little bit of opportunity to experiment. These new platforms and the entire video landscape online is changing very quickly. So we do want to get our hands dirty a little bit, test it out, see if it makes sense for us. And as Lindsay said, we're not a very robust team here either that's focusing on programming and production. So the more that we can get out of the resources that we have, the better, and really just use the analytical data to show us where we do want to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Theo?
Yeah, just to weigh in on that, I mean, I completely agree with both Lindsay and Nate. I mean, the only other thing I'd say is there are a few platforms I believe you don't want to be left out on. Like, regardless of what you're seeing, I think if it's not working for you, you need to find a way to make it work for you. For instance, like if you're not on Facebook and you're not on Twitter, engaging in conversations, you're going to want to be there. And if you don't have the resources, maybe just find a way to at least make an effort to have a presence there. And I think if you're really looking at video and getting into the video space, Snapchat right now is so young, and it's really a creative free-for-all right now. People haven't quite figured it out yet, and the people that have are just kind of doing what they feel is right, and people are piggybacking on that and loving it because it's giving a real raw insight into who these people and brands are. So I think the best way to just get into that is just to jump in and see what's working, and see if people are engaging, and see if people are screenshotting your fact of the day or your whatever it might be, like turn the sound up, here comes like an awesome clip, and just kind of have someone there with a phone or with a camera, and which is your phone now, and just get into it and get dirty and see what's working, and just kind of build off those new emerging platforms that you see are picking up, and yeah, just build your presence from there.
Great. And then Cody?
Yeah, definitely. And kind of to build off what Theo said, it is a lot of experimentation. What I try to, when we're working with brand partners, what I try to focus on is do you want to reach the largest audience, or do you want to reach the right audience, right? So my role is audience development. So in theory, it's just let's grow the numbers. But if we're not engaging our core audience, and if we have a brand that wants to reach our Facebook followers, that's great because they just want to see some numbers. But what I try to stress is engage with that core audience, because they're the ones that are going to drive the conversion. They're the ones that are going to be the most engaging. So you experiment on these new platforms, and then really try to make actionable decisions based on what you see, and if something's not working, get off of it. If you see that your core fan base is not taking to it, move on to something else. We have a large following, and some of our stunts are so great that even if you're not an action sports athlete, you still want to watch that video, right? But at the end of the day, that's not what I'm going for. I'm trying to really engage our core fan base and deliver something that true Nitro Circus fans will want, that will like, and will share. So that's what I try to tell brands is instead of trying to reach the largest audience, focus on a core group of people who are really going to drive your message and share your message for you.
Great. I think we're up. Our time's up, but thanks again for all your insights. And this topic right here. We could do an entire conference on, and I just see how much we're scratching the surface. But that the point of #SportsConf is to cover a variety of topics and to begin that conversation. And obviously, we encourage you to reach out to our speakers. You got their information on the screen right here. You can watch this content in the future. But good luck with all of your mobile and social video efforts, and thanks again to all of our panelists. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.